today's broadcast.
Good morning, you all. Too very kind. It is great to see your faces, the faces that I've come to know, love, respect, because I've seen what God has been doing in you, and I know what God has got you through. But I also want you to know that the title of my teaching today is Critical Response. And I want you to know and keep in mind that the adversary will attack, and he will plant with ease. I want to tell you that one more time, that the adversary is going to attack. The attack is coming. We're not done with the attack. And he's going to plant it with such ease, we may not even realize that it's going to hit us. Pastor Keith did this graphic, I believe. Is that right? Pastor Keith did this. He did this. Yesterday was the first time I saw it. But what that represents is an EKG. It measures the response that your heart is putting out. And as Christians, we have to figure out what is in our heart. What are we putting out? We don't want a flat line. Flat lines are going to happen. But we don't want a flat line when we are put to the test. And that response is so very, very crucial and critical. So I'm going to do my best to stay to my notes. I'm going to, when I taught in the classroom, I don't stand still. I roam. I pace. And when I'm on the sidelines coaching, I pace. So I'm going to do my best, but pacing might get me more in the Holy Spirit. But I'm going to try to tell you and express to you what the Holy Spirit expressed to me. Amen. It was not convenient for me to be here today. Pastor asked me sometime in the middle of July. I came up after service, and you know how Pastor does, and he asked, and he said, "Hey, I want to ask you something, but I need Pastor Melanie to be by my side when I ask you." And I was like, oh no. He's asked me things before, but if he's asking Pastor Melanie to come and talk to me, what is that going to mean? He said, start preparing something for a Sunday. And I was like, exactly what Hope said. I can't do it like Hope did, but exactly if you heard Hope. And didn't know what to say. And then I was like, okay, 9:15. I was like, okay, 9:15. And then he said, well, it's going to be the last weekend in August. And I was like, Ryder's got to be back to school the last weekend of August. Ryder goes to school 12 hours away. Ryder can't get into his dorm until 1 o'clock on Saturday. So my initial response, the convenient response for me and for my family, for my wife, for Ryder, was to say, no, I can't do it. But I had to yield to Pastor because Pastor was being obedient. And if Pastor Keith and Pastor Melanie were asking me to do something, then it wasn't about my convenience. Now, there are certain things that we can't get out of. But, glory to God, we were able to make a way. Now, Thursday, we left after work, drove to West Virginia, and then Friday got up, drove the rest of the way to New York. Dropped them off, drove 2 hours to my sister's, got to spend time with her and her wonderful grandchildren, got to see my nephew, so it was great, but then we drove back yesterday. It's like, man, and I think about what Tori does all the time. Think about Minister Sammy on the road all the time, and what am I complaining about? It was not convenient for me. I'd love to have had another day. I would love to have had the opportunity to spend more time with family, but God said, you know what? I think you can do this. You know why? Because you've done it before. Convenience is our way of getting out of obedience. So let me tell you some examples. I work at a school that draws from 9 counties. Some people drive over an hour to come to our school. It's not convenient for them, but it's important to them. It matters to them. We do not have transportation, so the parents have to drive the kids till the kids can drive on their own. It's not convenient for them, but it matters to them. When I was trying to make my wife fall in love with me, I knew she was the one. She lived in Memphis. I met her, it was going into basketball season. I would work, I would coach Friday night, and I would get in my car about 9, 10 o'clock at night, and I would drive to Memphis. It was not convenient for me, I promise you that, but I was in love. It was a love that made me say, hey, this isn't convenient. I'm going to drive all night. I'm going to need lots of things to keep me up. I didn't know the Lord like I knew the Lord now. I wish I did, because I would have been praying the whole time. But the Lord got me through it because he knew there was a vessel waiting for me that was going to pour into me. I'd get there, I'd check in about 5 o'clock in the morning in a hotel. I'd wait for her and the kids to wake up because I was in love with her, but it was her and 2 boys. I couldn't just put my needs about how I felt about her. It was her and 2 boys, and I had to respect them. I had to respect her. They were a family. I was the outsider. It was not convenient, okay? But I was so in love. So I'd wait for them to wake up. I would leave the hotel. I would go, and I'd spend the day with them. Sometimes she was working. Sometimes she wasn't working. Spend the night, go back to the hotel, wake up, see him as long as I possibly could, and then I drove back to Charlotte. That was Friday night into Sunday, and here I am back in Charlotte, and I'm complaining, not complaining, but thinking, it's not convenient, Pastor, for me to be here today. Remember, the adversary will plant with ease. Inconvenience is one of those things. It's easy for me to say, Pastor, I can't do it, I've got to take my son. But I was able to drive to Memphis. When Ryder was a senior, he played 43 basketball games at Charlotte United Christian Academy. 43. Let me put that in perspective. In our high school season, we're allowed 23, and then you go into the playoffs. College teams that make it to the national championship get into the upper 30s. Ryder played 43. Kyron was with him. Coach McClure was coaching. 43 games. Misty said, hey, you know what? I'm going to all of them. They played all over North Carolina, South Carolina, went to Kentucky, maybe Virginia, Tennessee. Snowstorm. A horrible snowstorm. They're driving through the mountains. I know Coach McClure was in a van with some of the boys, and Misty was driving Ryder and Kyron. As they were sleeping, she was driving through that snowstorm up through the mountains. Was not convenient for her. But out of her love for her son, she said, you know what? I haven't always had this opportunity. As a single mom, she had 2 jobs. She missed football games. She missed the things that they were involved with. But when she had time, and she said, you know what? She could have said, you know what? This isn't convenient for me to drive, to go to work all day and then to drive all over the state and other states, take time off of work. But she made it happen. So why are we using convenience? When things matter to us, we can be inconvenienced. But when it's God, where does that convenience fall? Where do we fall on that convenience? So, convenience is a choice. In a harvest time message from Pastor Keith, he said, harvest doesn't come at your convenience, it comes after work. We have to put work into it. So what does all this have to do with critical response? And even more important, the Bible. Because when the adversary plants, what we do next is critical. And the next action is our response. But it's the natural man that takes over. It's the natural man that we're constantly fighting. It's the natural man that takes that, what the devil has planted with ease. It's the natural man. What is our response? Our response is to be critical. Our response is to criticize all the things that we do not understand. Our response, okay, is to say, I don't understand why this is happening. I was inconvenienced this morning. We left, and I said, I need to stop at the ATM. And somebody else was there. And I was like, all right, that's okay. While we were sitting in the car, apparently they had about 30 transactions. And I'm like, man, he is inconveniencing me. And I started to feel some type of way about it. But what Pastor has also taught me is quick recognition. And I rely on that quick recognition to say, you know what? All right, devil, I see what you're doing. If you're going to use me today, I can't be getting involved in that easy planning that you put at the ATM. It's going to be what it's going to be. We'll continue on our way. But I made a choice. I made a choice to leave roughly the same time and stop at the ATM. So it had nothing to do with the man who was doing something on his own convenience time. It was on my time. I'm the one who decided, hey, I planned this out. Was inconvenienced by it. The devil wants to plant things. John 10:10 says, but the thief cometh not, but for to steal, to kill, and destroy. We aren't the only ones planning. The adversary is planning. And he knows just what to plant. He knows the things that are going to get you off track. He knows the things that are going to keep you from your promise, keep you from your purpose, keep you from impacting other people. Todd did a teaching during Fast Week called Maintaining. Any of you ever do any like flower beds or stuff in bushes where you got to put mulch out, weeds grow up all in it? Man, I hate that time. Man, all those weeds, and I just watch them. I can't get to them, I can't get to them, I can't get to them, and all of a sudden they start to get deeper in there, and there's more of them, and they start to take over. Those weeds, it's a satisfying feeling when you finally get to do it, but they keep coming back. You can spray the chemicals, you can dig them up, but they keep coming back. Maintaining your house, your property, your life, there's always something coming at you. I was at a Carolina Panther game, and I was sitting there in this concrete facility years ago, and I saw in the stands, in the concrete, there was a weed growing. I was like, what? I can't get grass to grow at my house. I'm not that good at that type of stuff. But all of a sudden, in this concrete, there's a weed growing. Look at the cracks in our sidewalk or driveway. I'm always fighting those weeds. And if I don't tend to them quickly, they get deeper. They start to bust up that concrete. You know the building that we were looking at, I don't know if you saw the pictures of the basketball court. There wasn't a basketball court there because it had been taken over by weeds. There was a basketball court there at one point in time. If that is where we're purposed to be, I can promise you there will probably be another basketball court there. But it's going to have to be maintained. It's going to have to be kept up. As far as the seeds that the devil is planting, you can maintain your property as much as you want, but you can't maintain your neighbor's property. Tori was telling me a story about what he said to some of his neighbors when they weren't cutting the grass. He told them about how the snakes and the mice were in there. They cut the grass real quick. I bet they did. But if there are weeds in their yard, they can blow over into your yard. You can maintain it all you want, but you've got to watch where the attack is coming from. But yet we still want to be critical. We still want to, our response is to criticize. And it's so amazing because I didn't know that Pastor Keith was going to be talking about You've Been Told the past couple weeks. Did not know where we were going to be in Master Life this week. But Hope was talking about self-control this morning and our response to other people. Yesterday we left my sister's and we were stopping at Dunkin' Donuts for our 12-hour ride. But that Dunkin' Donuts was packed out onto the road, so we were going to go to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has cheaper gas. It's about 20 minutes away from my sister, so we crossed into Pennsylvania to find cheaper gas, which was not the case. And then there was a Dunkin' Donuts there. Pulling into Dunkin' Donuts, there's not a line. Well, the Dunkin' Donuts was next to another building. Once you pull in past the speaker, you're kind of locked in there. I should have noticed the first thing because there was a lady hid out there taking orders, so the machine was broken. It's all right. About to stop there, about to get some gas, and then we're going to make this drive. And then all of a sudden the line wasn't moving. You ever been in that line that's not moving? So we're going to, I know Hope doesn't work at Dunkin' Donuts, but Hope talked about having patience and having self-control when we're being attacked. I started to feel some type of way. Started to be like, man, it has been at least 3.5 minutes. I don't know why this isn't moving. I've got 12 hours in front of me. You're going to make me late. I just want to get home to our house. I want to get home to our bed. I want some rest, and you're putting me in this situation? And you know what happens with people in that situation? They'll start honking the horn. They'll open the window and share some of the language that is not so clean. They'll get up to the window and they'll take it out on Hope, that customer service person who was dreading the next car coming up because the other 5 have already yelled at them. That was their response. You've inconvenienced me. Been to this Dunkin' Donuts 100 times and I've never had this problem, so I'm going to tell you all about the problem that I did have. Hope can't fix the problem. But we're still going to let Hope know about it. Hope's probably already told her manager. Hope's already going to have that conversation. But we don't think about the other side. We don't think about the people that came to work and all of a sudden the system wasn't working. It was amazing to look inside that window, that drive-through window, and to look and to see they were already fighting. Workers were arguing with each other. The devil had already planted with these. It wasn't an ordinary Saturday for those people. It was a day in which they got to work. They didn't know what was going to happen. Things weren't happening like they wanted to. And there was the devil. There was the devil planning with ease. People in the line are frustrated. People there are frustrated. The guy at the window wouldn't even look at me because he was like, man, can't even imagine what the next person's going to say. And I have to sit here and I have to endure this. But a little bit of love gives that person just a brief respite. A little bit of love, if we are Christians and we are acting like Christ, is he going to yell through the drive-through window? Yeah. Slowed us down. Probably ended up being a little bit 15 minutes longer than we would have planned. But maybe I avoided something 15 minutes down the road. I've always said that we find out our true character when we've been given power, how we handle that. When we're tested, how we handle that. But I believe traffic definitely tells us our true character. Because I know there's a lot of construction around here, but driving up north, they're still fixing the roads from the winter. And then the winter's going to bust them all up, and then they're going to start fixing them again once the weather's nice. A lot of one-lane roads. And even though Google Maps will tell me there's an 11-minute delay up here, then I'm calculating, can I avoid it? Do I want to deal with the 35-mile-an-hour towns? We become very critical. We didn't understand. I didn't understand what was happening at that Dunkin' Donuts. I didn't take the time to try to understand. Oh, I should have went inside. That was my response. Then I was like, quick recognition, all right. She saw me starting to get a little bit, I was like, because people started backing up behind me, and I was in that spot that you couldn't back up. They started backing up behind me, and I'm like, should I back up? Is that what I'm supposed to do? Am I supposed to get out of this situation that for whatever reason you have put me here, God, and I don't know exactly why. Maybe it's to be the one person who doesn't yell at this person. Maybe it's to be the one thing that they're going to say, you know what? I needed that break because maybe I was about to lose it. Maybe I was about to go off, throw your coffee inside the next car, and then create a situation that I would never have known what would happen. But what are we doing? What are we saying to God when we're inconvenienced? What is our critical response? You ever hold an event? I know we have held events here. You ever held an event you're responsible for? You got all the things going on behind the scenes. But people just show up to events. And then what do they do when they get in the car? Yeah, the food was all right. I was expecting a little bit better. It's a little crowded in there. Can you believe they chose that place? Man, next time, if I'm telling that to my wife, she can't solve the problem. She may agree with me because that's the critical response I'm looking for. Someone to agree with me to make me feel better. Even though that's not the way I should be feeling about it. We seek the responses. We seek what we think are the critical responses, but they're not the obedient response. They're not the ones that say, hey, you know what? Mister, let's go talk to whoever's in charge. Let me email the manager of that Dunkin' Donuts and say, hey, by the way, been there before. Things have been great. May have been a rough day, but I'm just going to let you know what was going on. Probably, I'm guarantee they know. Whether they fix it or not, we'll find out the next time we're in New York. But as far as how we respond to those situations, we're so critical. The natural man is going to have a critical response. And sometimes when God's talking to us, It's not convenient. Doesn't work for me, God. Is God really saying that to me? It's tough. We have to have that quick recognition. There'll be days I come home. Maybe things haven't gone the way I wanted to that day. And I'll come home and I may not have a good demeanor, and she'll let me know that I do not have a good demeanor. My critical response will be to defend myself of why I get to be in a bad mood, why I get to feel some type of way, as opposed to saying, and I still fall down. But I try to recognize it quicker in that quick recognition and be able to say, whoa, I'm sorry. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 10 minutes into it. But I need to recognize that I'm falling down, because that's not what's going on. My defense, my excuse, I'm bringing those evil spirits into the house. I'm bringing the adversary. He is planted. He is planted with financial trouble. He is planted with health issues. He is planted with marriage issues. He is planted with, you know what? They don't call me anymore. I'm not going to call me. They don't deserve my time. Well, when we're waiting for that critical response from God, is that what we want him to say about us? You didn't come to me. Sorry you took your cheat day today. It's interesting. We go to a gym one night a week. Or one night a month they have pizza. You know why that is, right? Just give you a taste. Give you a taste to get you away from your purpose. Give you a taste to get away from your goals. One night a week they're going to serve, or one night a month they're going to serve pizza. I laugh every time I see that sign. And I love pizza. Don't get me wrong. I love pizza. But I just think it's interesting when we get involved in some of these things. Sports. We see it all the time in sports. Best coaches are the ones watching TV. The best coaches are the ones in the stands. They're all good. I've been at the Panther game, 70,000. What is that offensive coordinator thinking? Couldn't tell you. But apparently you know more. National championship game in football last year. Starting quarterback all season was replaced at halftime. At halftime. You have been replaced at halftime. It's your job, and at halftime, this coach pulls you out and brings somebody else in. Wins the game, he's a hero. Loses the game. Made a whole state mad, and all their fans around the country. But when we're being pulled out of a situation, how do we handle that? What is our response to that situation? When we're being pulled out, or when we're complaining with that critical response that is our natural man, when we're complaining about things, are we waiting for our opportunity? Are we preparing for our opportunity? Are we getting that word? Are we praying? Or are we just complaining? Coach doesn't like me. Coach yelled at me. My boss yelled at me. My boss doesn't like me. Or are we waiting for when God is going to use us? I know I'm talking a lot. I know I'm sharing a lot of stories. But I promise we're going to look at what the Word tells us about this. We got to stop leaning to our own understanding. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. We have to stop leaning to our own understanding. He will direct our paths. So I need to go to Matthew. If you will turn with me to Matthew 13 and 24. I just want to read this to you. Read along with me. Matthew 13 and 24. Is everybody there? Amen. And we know about sowing seed earlier in Matthew 13. We know about sowing seed on good ground. It's just like that weed that blows over and is sitting in the crack of my driveway. I couldn't plant grass there if I wanted to. But that weed sure grows well there. Matthew 13 and 24. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat, and went his way. The enemy came and sowed tares. Looked up tares because I didn't know what that meant, and that's my challenge with the King James Version. I know in the Amplified it says it's a weed, but I wanted to look up and see what a tare was. A tare is a darnel. It actually mimics weed as it's a weed that actually mimics the wheat as it's growing. Looks just like wheat. It's called a darnel. And as it, no. You changed the whole perspective on that, though. So that's not. But, sorry, Isaac. As far as it grows, we're going to read further about what people want to do as it grows because it looks just like wheat, but it can have poison in it. So what is that devil planning while we're sleeping? And whatever sleep is, we can be sleeping while we're awake. But what is the devil planting? Verse 26. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath it tares? That's that understanding. What'd you do? Did you sow the wrong seed? Got to be something wrong with you because this isn't what you were supposed to plant. He said unto them, An enemy hath done this. Then the servants said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? That was their first response. That was their critical response. Oh my goodness, there's a weed here. Let's get it out of the way. But let's look at what they decided to do. He said, Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. Weeds are always coming, and sometimes they look like things that we may actually need, things that we may actually benefit from, even though they're poison. And one of the things that we want to do is rip them out of our lives. We want to act fast. Quick recognition doesn't mean your emotions take over. Quick recognition means you have planned and prepared and you are ready for the situation so that you can address it because you have been filled up with so much word. You understand. Quick recognition isn't, oh my goodness, there's a situation. I'm going to get so worked up about the situation that I'm going to ruin my harvest, that I'm going to ruin what God has purposed for me to do. And I'm going to throw away everything and start over. He says, let both grow together in verse 30. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them. But gather the wheat into my barn. So you got to wait. If you go down, I'm not going to read it, but if you go down into 36 through 43, Jesus explains the parable of the tares on the field. And from what I can understand from it, is that good and evil are always going to be there. Sometimes they're going to be side by side. Until that harvest time. To whatever that harvest time is, it's going to be how we respond to those tares. How we respond to what the devil has planted. Last week he came hard at us. Water main broke in the yard, was leaking. We knew how much that was going to cost. The devil was like, I'm just going to plant this financial problem for you. Now, prior to that, I would have been like, I would have got mad, got upset. She would have asked me something. I would have got upset back at her because, you know what? I don't know how we're going to pay for it. That would have been my response. We made it through it. God's got it covered. She was texting me from work. She's like, what are we going to do? I said, God's got it covered. She's listening to praise. What came on? What came on when you were listening at work? I text you that God got it. God's going to cover it. God's got it, God. That was a song she was hearing at that time, God's got it. Brought her down. It's going to be what it's going to be because I've got God. Not because that's a fancy saying. Not because that's something nice that I'm going to put up on the wall at the house that is going to be what it's going to be. It's going to be what it's going to be because I know that God is going to cover us. I know that God is going to protect us. I know that God has a plan. His plan is better than mine. So ruining what we have because I don't like what God's doing at that point in time, or what the enemy is doing, I should say. The enemy is coming. And he knows what financial situations have done to us. Glory to God, I have a wonderful wife. But that plant, oh, that doesn't work this time? And once the devil knew that it didn't work, something happened with the dog. 2 days later, a week ago Saturday, I had to take him to emergency vet. All right, that didn't tip the scales enough, the devil said. You used to be able to plant that seed easily. All right, I'll plant another seed. I'll give you all the financial problems you can handle. God's got it covered. Now, my wife went to worst case scenario. She's like, oh no, the dog's going to die right before Ryder leaves. It's Ryder's dog. It's like, no. Why are we going there? Why are we speaking that? But that's what we do. I do it. I'm not just calling her out. But she went to a situation, it's like, you went all the way to the end. He had a little hot spot on him. Yeah, he bit himself, and it was bleeding. It didn't look pretty. But those situations never do. And then going to the emergency vet, they're going to charge you. So we got through a really big one, but what was the next one going to be? So you're telling me at 8 o'clock, and so he's dying, according to her. So that means Saturday morning, I want to see how it plays out, because that would be convenient for me. But me and our dog are heading to the emergency vet, and with no appointment. And they said the next appointment we have is at 4 o'clock, and I'm trying not to, because I've been inconvenienced. I'm trying not to feel some type of way because I've been inconvenienced, right? So when we're looking at those things, right there in the Bible, the devil is going to plant when you're sleeping. And he's going to give you things that look like some of the things that you want, or those things that are going to distract you. Those things that are going to make you pull up everything that you've been working for and just, as Pastor Keith says, blow it up. Blow it up and step back from it. Because we're operating in emotion. We're operating in, oh, that's happened before. I know there was a dog that died, and they had something similar. No, you may not know that. They may have happened, but it wasn't a similar thing, because we don't know. We don't understand. I'm not a veterinarian. I need to take it to a veterinarian. I need to call the people who are going to come and fix the water main coming into the house. I need to be able to talk to them. Because I sat there and looked at it for a couple of days, I'll be honest. It was Sunday, we got home from church. It was coming up through the driveway. It's like, that doesn't look good. But if I say something about it, you know what's going to happen? Then it's what I think might happen could possibly happen, and I don't understand all that stuff is up there. I probably should have called someone like Terrence and said, look, what am I really looking at, because he's all knowing in those areas. But my mind didn't know that. I didn't understand, so I waited a couple days. Maybe the water will go down. We've had a lot of rain. Never seen it come up through the driveway like that before, but we've had a lot of rain, so maybe based upon the grade of, this is my understanding. This is leaning on my understanding. Based upon the grade of the properties around us, this water could settle here, and potentially this water could come up through the driveway. Even though in however many years I've lived there, I've never seen it happen before. And I could almost see the water just bubbling a little bit at the cracks. But that was my own understanding, and then I brought the experts in. Are we trusting the expert? Are we trusting God in our response? Are we waiting when he's told us something? Good and evil will exist together. If you go to Deuteronomy 30 and 19, you probably know this well. But Deuteronomy 30 and 19. Just like the tares in the wheat. Deuteronomy 30 and 19 says, I have set before you life and death. We know that. Blessings and cursings. Therefore, choose life. We know that. We've heard that. But look at the end of that. Okay, it says, I have set before you life and death, blessings and cursings. Therefore, choose life, that thou and thy seed may live. That thou and thy seed may live. That thou and what is going to be harvested in your life. It's not just you, it's about the seed. What are you planting? Because you're not the only one planning. Your choice is your response. We can't make it hastily out of fear, out of emotion, out of ignorance. Came up, so Pastor had asked me in July, and we were working on our critical incident response at school. And that's the active shooter. Your plan for an active shooter. We have to have a plan. We have to be prepared for it. So when we meet with the teachers, well, we want to run. I know you want to run. I know that's what you are going to want to do. The students are going to want to run. In your job description, it says nothing about an active shooter in your responsibilities. Now, I know a lot of employers have those other duties as assigned. But as far as their thought is, I need to get to safety because of what could happen to me. But we're responsible for those kids. And I pray to God for safety over my school every single day, over my job, over her job. Because I don't want anything to happen. But if it does, we have to have a plan. We have to have a response. We have to know what we're going to do. Because 60 teachers can't be running all over the place doing what they want to do. Now, you also have to remember, North State of North Carolina says we have to have a fire drill at schools once a month. So on the wall, and usually every classroom, there's a plan of where people need to go when you drill it, and people don't necessarily take it seriously. Even though we have a plan, even though we've been trained for a response, what happens when you're supposed to go out of the classroom, take a right, because that's what you've been trained to do, and that's where the fire is. That's where the adults need to come in and be able to have a plan and to not panic, to not have a response. Okay? That is going to be a free-for-all. That is going to be, I'm looking out for myself, and now I'm leaning on my own understanding. You have to think about that. It's hard for me to tell teachers to think about not going home. It's not part of their plan. They didn't sign up for that. And hopefully they never have to deal with it. But they need to be prepared. They need to have a response. They need to have a response on top of the response so that they can be prepared for those types of things. So that's where I got critical response, because as Christians, that's what we need to do. Remember, God's plan is better than our own. So we have plans. We had plans on how we were going to go to New York. It didn't happen exactly how we wanted to, but he got there. He's fine. Everything's going to be okay. It was God's plan. Was also leaving church one Wednesday. There was an advertisement. It's one of those kind of like behind the music type things on TV One, and it was Diggable Planets from the 90s, the rise and fall, and they were talking about, and this guy, I was at the light over there on Brookshire, and I was like, and he said something that stood out to me, and it said, you know what? He said, everybody, this was after the fall, you know, they have two great albums, and then all of a sudden the band starts to have turmoil. And he says, everybody has their breaking point. And I thought, that's what we want to, that's what our default is. We want a breaking point. But where's our God point? Where is our God point? When are we turning to God? I'll tell you when I turned to God. When I was younger, and unfortunately not too much younger. When I drank too much. Started feeling sick. That's when I turned to God. God, if you help me out of this situation, I'm never going to drink again. God, just help me this one time, and I promise I won't do it again. When we've been in a situation that we can't figure a way out, isn't that been some people's God point? God, if you can just get me out of this situation, I promise I've said it. I've said it numerous times. I've said it too many times. I'm still growing. I am still growing. The past 2 years of my life, since coming to Heirs, have challenged me to be obedient. Because my God point has to be being in the Word daily. My God point has to be that I'm praying. My God point has to be that, you know what, I need to be in the sanctuary. I handled it on my own for 44 years, and I just thank God every day that He got me through what He got me through. Because I sure didn't deserve it. So now I thank Him every day. In our master life, there was a section a couple weeks ago that said, what happened if the things that we said, that we didn't tell God we were thankful for, He took them away? And that broke me down. Think of how many responses we have. The moment you wake up, we have a response. Oh, God, I don't want to get out of bed today. It's a response. It's a critical response. I've said it. I've hit the snooze. Have you ever known about somebody who's incapacitated and can't get out of bed? They're praying for the opposite. They're praying for the exact opposite. Think of how many responses we have to our families, to our friends. They're all critical because they're all opportunities. They're all opportunities to open my eyes and say, thank you, Jesus. Thank you for waking me up today. Thank you for giving me 2 legs to walk. Thank you for giving me the vision. Thank you for giving me everything that I have. Thank you for my children. We have to thank Him because He got us to where we are. We have to confess our sins, but we have to be obedient. It is not a license to sin. It is not a license to do whatever we want. We have to be obedient. Whatever the adversary is planning in your life, does it break you? Or do you find strength in the one who models that agape love, who models sacrifice? He's the healer, He's the protector, He's the provider, He's the Most High. I've seen the healing. Misty was supposed to speak. Well, she was. Not just supposed to. She did speak at Fast Week in June on a Tuesday. Friday after work, she said, I got this pain. My wife has a high threshold for pain, so when she's in pain, I know something's wrong. And it was in an area that she said it could be my gallbladder, it could be my pancreas. So now, she doesn't want to know that it really is that, so we go to the urgent care, not the emergency room, even though she's doubled over. And if she's doubled over, the urgent care is not going to help her. But just like that water in the driveway, we lean on our own understanding. Let me go to the urgent care first because I don't really want to know what this is because I already know what it is. Then we were in the emergency room. If you've been in the emergency room, it'll test your patience and it'll test your self-control. Nothing, I can't say nothing, but one of the things that just gets to me the most is when my wife has been hurt or in pain. If our children say something that hurts her, that's when I get upset. I do not like to see her in pain. So we got there, 8 o'clock. Asked for pastor to pray. I'm still amazed at how calm I was. That doesn't make me anything. That just means it's in God's hands. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to use the power of prayer. Finally get to the doctors about 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. And they run test after test after test. And after they ran all of the initial tests, the doctor was sure that something was wrong with her gallbladder. But nothing was showing up on the test. They were sure that something was wrong, so they ran some more tests. And those tests came back, and there was nothing there. She said something to me. The devil was trying to keep her from speaking. To this day, by Tuesday, that was Friday night. We got home about 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. By Tuesday, she was fine, and she was speaking at Fast Week. I've seen it. I've felt the presence of God. I've seen the healing. I've seen him cover a situation that we have no right covering with our water main. I've seen it happen. I've even seen him say, I'm going to figure this out. See, Hebrews 4 and 2, when we've heard, we need to mix it with faith. I know I'm not saying exactly, is that Hebrews 4 and 2? We need to mix it with faith. Pastor Keith was talking about it. You've been told. We need to mix it with faith. Sometimes we can't just go with what's on the surface. We've got to find what's under the surface. Praise God that that hasn't come back to her to this day. But I've seen it happen. I've felt the presence. I know what he has the power to do. Because I have the faith. I've attached my faith to it. And when it doesn't work out, I don't blame him. When it doesn't work out, my response isn't to say, well, you said God. When it doesn't work out, it's not my opportunity to find something in the Bible to use to my advantage, even though that's not what God intended with that particular scripture. That can't be my response. My response has to be, all right, there's a reason for this. There's an opportunity. I can't see it. But isn't that what faith is? I would like you to turn to Proverbs 24. And I'm going to read out of the Amplified. So what do we do? How do we respond? Because we have something special happening here at this church. I've felt it every time I walk in. I will tell you, I've walked out and left the presence immediately. I remember walking out of here. I've never felt anything but amazing. I grew up in church, in a Catholic church, and I used to sit there. And I sat back there and I said, I believe in you, God. It's you and me. I'm not listening to anything they're saying. I was figuring out how to turn that church into a basketball court during the day and then a nightclub at night. That's what I sat there listening while they were talking about the word. That was my plan. Oh, I see, we could put a basketball court here. We could put 3 basketball courts this way. And we'll play basketball all day. And then we'll turn it into a nightclub at night. That's what I thought. Time after time. I thought that more than I ever listened to what was being said. But when I come in here, it's been different. I try to stay locked in. But I've walked out there, got in the car with our kids, and something happens. And I immediately have left the presence of God. By the time I get to the Brookshire, there was a response that I didn't need to have. I'm not going to try to read all of this, and remember, I'm reading out of the Amplified. I want you to go, let's see, let's go to Proverbs 24 and 6. Remember, this is the Amplified. For by wise guidance you can wage your war, and in an abundance of wise counselors there is victory and safety. I told you at the beginning that the devil will attack. The adversary is coming. To prepare for that attack, to wage that war. Look what we need. We need each other. We need the body. We need everybody in here. I've been taught so long I need to handle it on my own. Sharing things is a sign of weakness. I'll be embarrassed. They'll know who I am because I don't know the real I am. If you go down to sorry, I was going to read all this, but I don't want to just read it all to you. Look at 10. If you are slack in the day of distress, your strength is limited. If that's your response, I'm going to give myself a break, God, because I deserve it. But if that day of distress comes, your strength has been limited. And that will be your response. Is your response, like it says in 11, rescue those who are being taken away to death? Or we just look at them and say, sorry for them. Sorry they didn't figure it out. Sorry, as Master Life told us, that I could have been a witness. How about 12? Amplified says, if you claim ignorance and say, see, we did not know this. Pastor Keith has already told us that we've been told. I didn't know it, or I forgot. I didn't write it down that day. "15 says, do not lie in wait, O wicked man, against the dwelling of the righteous. Do not destroy his resting place." I love 16. "For a righteous man falls 7 times and rises again." We will fall. I've fallen. I continue to fall. I'm still growing. I'm still challenged. But if I'm obedient, if I'm in the Word, if I have that quick recognition, I don't have to destroy what we have. I don't have to destroy what I have with my children. I don't have to destroy what I have with the people that I love that are in this room. There's so much that I need to do, and so much that I need to, so many areas I need to grow in. But I can't blow it up. 17, do not rejoice and gloat when your enemy falls. Is that your response? I'm sorry for you, Dunkin' Donuts man. It's gotta suck. I finally got my coffee. I'm ready to hit the road. Sorry that your day is going to be horrible. What did I do to try to make it better? He wasn't my enemy, but he was my enemy that morning. Do not let your heart be glad when he stumbles. Do not get, this is 19, do not get upset because of evildoers or be envious of the wicked. We can't be envy. Envy can't be a response. It's what's purpose for somebody else. You know how hard it was for that young man, and it's a young man, and for you young people in here, you are going to be challenged. We have athletes in here. We have future CEOs in here. We have people who are going to do great things. We have future pastors in here. But that young man that was taken out of that national championship game, how he was going to respond? Going to get his job back? We're going to start blaming everybody. We can't be envious of those that have things that we want. God already has something for you. Your harvest is there, waiting for you. Your purpose, your promise. Let me just scroll down to the end. There's so much in here that tells you how to respond out of wisdom. Let's go down to 30. It says in the Amplified, Proverbs 24 and 30, I went by the field of the lazy man and by the vineyard of the man lacking understanding and common sense. And behold, it was all overgrown with thorns, and nettles were covering its surface, and its stone wall was broken down. Those are the weeds that the devil plants to take away everything that we have. Those are the weeds. In this case, it was because somebody decided to take their time off. It's because they were lazy, because they were slothful. And everything that they were supposed to have, everything that they had right in front of them, for whatever reason, it wasn't important. So it becomes overgrown. And it starts to tear down concrete. Those weeds will bust up pavement, concrete, tear it apart like it was never there. You take a sledgehammer and try to destroy that concrete driveway, which is probably at least 6 inches thick, 8 inches thick. You'd be there a long time. You stop maintaining, as Tom mentioned in his talk, what's going to end up happening? 32, when I saw, I considered it well. I looked and received instruction. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest and daydream. Then your poverty will come as a robber, and your want like an armed man. We have to know what our God point is. We can't wait till it's critical. Our response has to be every single day when we wake up. There are so many great things for you. I wish I knew, I wish I had access to what you young people have access to. I'm thankful that we are all here and being guided by our pastors and our ministers. I'm thankful that when it is time for that critical response, all of our other responses have been in line. We've operated out of love. We've humbled ourselves. We've forgiven. And we've been most of all obedient to God. That is all that I have.
Thanks for tuning in to today's broadcast. To view videos or make donations, feel free to access our website at www.heirscc.org. Remember, at Heirs, we believe we're just what you prayed for.